welcome to the Aim Sisters podcast. You're here today with your hosts, Anna and Maria Setting, bringing your favorite twin talk of the week. And we wanted to talk about this week looking beyond the mask, looking beyond the persona we have socially, and really make the hard questions of who am I really? And we wanted to dive into this identity question and how society shapes us to be in a certain way and how we can recover our true essence. So let's jump in.
Mm-hmm. So I think most of us have found ourselves in a situation where we're not truly happy. Maybe it was a job or maybe it was a study path that you were following that was not really aligned with who you want to become, or were not bringing you a lot of joy and satisfaction. And you were just doing that because that's what you thought you should do, because you were raised to be in that position, right? Because you were taught that you should get a job like that. That was the image in your head. And then you finally got there, but it didn't bring you the satisfaction you thought it would. So I think many people can resonate with that. But why do we do that, right? Why do we find ourselves in a situation like that where we cannot even find ourselves anymore? Do you have some insights on that?
I live inside a system that keeps rewarding certain things and kind of excluding others. So it starts from an early age, actually. Like when you go into, you have to decide which school you're going to study, like your university. If you go into a very good university, people are going to praise you. They're going to be like, well done, you did great, for entering that institution. And if you choose a major that is very well known, people will be like, wow, you're so smart, so intelligent because you got in. And after you graduate, you find a job and people will keep praising you because you're still following the path, And we know how hard it is to get any title. So for you to graduate, there's a lot of sweat and tears that go into that. Is it worth if it's only for the title? I think it's important to question that. And even after, if you find a job, people will say congratulations and all that, but are you happy in that job? Because just for the name, just for the position, is it really worth it? Because you're the person who's going to have to live with that every single day, working in that place, and not just for the name you're carrying. So I think it's really frustrating, really, how we live in this system that keeps rewarding positions and ranks and names and titles and all those things. And we end up, being shaped really to search for those things for external approval. So instead of just seeing inside, trying to gain this inner approval of ourselves, like, is this really making me happy? Is this in alignment with who I want to become or who I feel I am, my values? Being in alignment with your values doesn't mean that it's less hard work. Probably going to have to work as much as you're doing elsewhere, but at least you're working towards something that matters for you and is in alignment with you, instead of just expecting external, validation all the time that is gained through those positions, I feel.
Mm-hmm. So, as you said, we are kind of bound to external systems of validation, right?
Yes.
I think it stems from us not finding worth within ourselves, because we were taught and we were raised to believe that our worthiness comes from outside. It comes from things that people praise us for. It may be how smart we are, how pretty we are. It can be, like you said, entering a good university or getting a job in a place where lots of people want to get a job, But once we realize that it all comes from kind of a broken belief system that we have within ourselves, then we can start to rethink and to reconstruct what we believe it's our worth, right? Because once we strip ourselves from all of that, from all our titles, all the recognitions that people things people know us for, what is left, Do you find yourself after all that is taken away? I think that's a really important question, because if you try to find only what remains after everything is not there, do you find something, anything at all, right? Or do you find an empty shell? Do you find nothing? And finding yourself and finding your core, that's the most important thing, because it will never go away. It doesn't matter if you change your job, if your family changes, if, anything happens, you're still there. You're still there for yourself, and you still know you're worth it. It doesn't matter anything else, I believe, if you still know who you are.
I agree. You once gave an example of a house, a home, and a light. Can you share that with people?
So I think that, we have to try to turn our light on inside ourselves. Find that being within ourselves and turn the light on. Find the presence, find consciousness inside ourselves. Because when we come back within ourselves, when we come back to our inwards, right? Do we find an empty house? Do we find an empty home? Or do we find that light on? Right? I think it's really important to find that light on. Even if it's not on, find ways to turn that light on. Because then it means that you're present in yourself and that you still are who you are. And that you know that there is consciousness in that. It's not an empty shell. It's not an empty house. It's not an empty home, because you're there. You're present there.
Yes. And I think that goes hand in hand with what I was thinking about humanity. How humans are really strange. We search for validation everywhere. We search for validation inside of ourselves from the moment we were born, basically. And because we're raised to be like this, we learn that love is conditional. We learn that everything is conditional. And we forget that simply existing is enough. And you're enough for being yourself and for living. And I was thinking every other type of species that lives on the planet, they know that. They don't need someone else to keep telling them, yes, you're so good. We need you on this earth. You're doing such a great job in the ecosystem and keeping everything in alignment. They don't need anyone to tell them those stuff. They simply exist. But we, within ourselves, in our communities, in our societies, we keep living in a way that, praises and uplifts certain types of people and puts down everyone that is against that system. And this is so horrible, because even the jobs or the positions and everything that is uplifted, those people I'm not sure if they're really in alignment with who they were supposed to be, because in the system that we live, that is working crazy long hours, how are you supposed to have a balance in your life? I really praise people who can find this balance, work long hours and have a family and have a social life and have time for themselves, because you cannot find your true essence. You cannot be in alignment with yourself if you don't have that time for yourself. How can you? It's like you're in a relationship, for example. You want to date someone. What do? You go on dates. You talk to the person. You spend time together to see who that person is. If you want to get to know yourself, what do? You have to spend that time with yourself. You have to ask the questions. You have to go back and look, who is this person really? But if you don't find that time, you're going to be living with a stranger, because you're going to be a stranger to yourself. And I think it's really important, that thing. And also because, of course, after working or studying or doing whatever for such a long time, you want to relax. And if you're just super tired, you're going to start consuming things that are brain numbing. And, and I think it's just a vicious cycle that is formed.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that you said that, we believe that every person has a path and that they should be in alignment with that path, so then they can be their best selves, right? Because they find a truth in being in a certain path, and if there's in a different path from that, maybe they don't find it to be resonating with them so much, right? But it's interesting that you said even that path of working a very exhausting job, maybe like working from 9 to 5 or 6, right? Or even more sometimes. Why I believe sometimes it is not aligned is because usually people are working for big companies, and the goals of those companies is really making money. But sometimes the way they make money, it's really not aligned with what the earth needs, with what humanity needs. It's not a fair system. It's not, it is not contributing to a better place to people to live, it's just very greedy and focused on their own profitability. So I agree, like how can that be in alignment with your true self? Where does this come from? Why are people still doing that? And I think people are still doing that because we were kind of brainwashed to believe that that's what we were supposed to do. The governments, they make a kind of they make the media show a kind of circumstances and situations where this is what you should want, and then we believe that. Everyone believes in that, but actually it's not helping us. It's not helping people around us. It's not helping nature, the environment, right? So who are we contributing to? It's not only about we making a living. It's much bigger than that, I think, right? And how can that be in alignment with your true self? I'm not saying you should quit your job, but I'm just saying that it makes it difficult for me to understand how I could find my personal fulfilling in just earning some money when I know what I'm doing is not really contributing to something that I believe in some cases. Other industries, maybe they're doing something that is helpful, but not all, right? Not all.
Yeah. And I think it's really strange as well, this whole concept of money in general. I know we need it to survive as humans in the system we created for ourselves. No other animal needs money. But, but we need to survive, so we keep working to make money to survive. But it's really strange in my opinion. But if you're just working for that type, just for the money itself, is really strange for me, because it's your life that you're spending, and that time is, you can never recover that time. Like my sister, she keeps making fun of me because I don't like admitting that I'm getting old because I know I'm young, but like every year I feel this emergency, almost like I need to start doing what I was supposed to do, like I know everything we go through in life is shaping us and preparing us for a big task or whatever, for maybe your life purpose, who knows. But I feel this kind of urgency to start living in alignment with what I'm supposed to be, instead of just like juggling things that don't really make sense to me, And I think most of people are kind of like that. There are two types of people, in my opinion. One is like kind of conform to the system. It's like, okay, I'm going to live this life. I'm going to make my money, enjoy my vacation type of person, and try to, like live a good life and in between. And other people are like, I really need to get to this place and like start living in alignment with what I want, and, trying to find their way back into the tracks they wanted to be in the first place.
But that's a good thing, actually. It means that, your light is not off.
Yeah.
Like, this is the guiding light. You have to go this way. Otherwise, you're going to lost yourself. And I think if we continue doing things that are not aligned with our truths, the more we get lost, the more we cannot see where we should be going. So I think that's why it is so difficult to realign with our path once we are so down the rabbit hole, Yeah. But there is our way. There's our way.
Finding the way out may come with a lot of judgment. And that's why we stress so much in the beginning of this conversation that it's important to find your own sense of worthiness within yourself. Because when you try to stray, you won't gain validation you're expecting from others. You're probably going to gain judgment and criticism. So, yeah, prepare yourself to what's to come if you're down the rabbit hole, of course. But maybe I can talk about the poem I wrote. So you can find a poem in our website called Essence, and it's probably one of our last posts, and just go to amsisters.com and you'll find it. So what I wrote, I was thinking kind of more or less about the things we're having in this conversation. So it's like, first I talk about like, oh, how wonderful it would be to be remembered, to be eternalized, and how would it feel to maybe years from now, when I'm no longer walking on this planet, someone remember my name or read something, a poem of mine, or something I created. How would that feel? Having my story told by others and known that I'm remembered. But at the same time, it's like, is it really the goal? Wouldn't it be nice as well to just live your life and reintegrate yourself in the cycle of things that are bound to end? Because in nature, everything has its place. And like I write in the poem, a leaf of a tree does its job. It produces oxygen and shelter and protects us from the sun and all those things. And when it's time to fall, it comes back to the earth and is reintegrated into this oneness. And it's going to nurture other plants, and it's going to fulfill its purpose in the beginning and end, in this never-ending cycle. And we should be part of this cycle as well, as humans, as animals, as nature. And is it really, why do I want to be eternalized? That's the question. Why do we want to have those titles and those names and all those things that are so important even after we die? Why can't we just gracefully go and let it go, everything, and just leave? And live a life that is in alignment. It doesn't matter if it's going to bring you rewards. It doesn't matter if it's going to bring you outside validation, because you know you belong to everything, your oneness. And you're good enough just by existing. You're fulfilling your purpose simply by existing. And I thought it was something that really talked to me in this moment, like letting go of those names and titles and everything to find who you are and knowing that you're enough just by existing. Yeah.
And it's not a life without rewards, actually. There are rewards, but they are different ones.
Yeah.
It's about finding yourself, finding a reconnection with everything around you, right? Nature, community, friendship. It's about harnessing what's important. And of course, you can have social recognition for things that you do, but it's kind of remembering that your worth does not lie on that, and that this is not the best thing you're going to do in your life.
It's not the goal. If you're doing something, it should be for something internally. If you get praised, recognized, wonderful. But you're acting because you want internally, not because you're already expecting something externally.
Yeah. And I think it's something that it's really important, but really challenging to change in our mindset, because it's so deeply ingrained in our brains that, you gotta find our external validations in everything we do. So it's really important and nice to think about it and try to little by little deconstruct this idea that we have that is not healthy at all for us.
Yeah. And
so I think it's also important to talk a little bit about recognizing that those external validations are not what matters the most. And if you're stuck in a place that you don't find very suitable for you, or you think there's something better out there, how can you realign yourself, right? What can you do? What's the first step for you to be able to see like the light by the end of the tunnel, you know? So one of my first ideas, something that helped me, maybe for you it's different, of course, but for me, trying to remember about my childhood. Me and my sister, I think you as well, right? We were very sensitive children. So we used to like to think about what's unseen, think about magic, think about all the possibilities, and see the world through different lenses and through like almost like seeing poetry in everything. Everything has the potential of life. Everything has the potential of beauty. Something can bloom out of nowhere, right? And using that imagination again and those different lenses to see our reality, we can start to see something new, something that is not flat, but something that has the potential of creation and can bring us something different. And just allowing this space already opens up a little crack, I think, in our heart shell, you know, that will light, some consciousness to come in and perhaps show us a different path, show us a different way.
that's really beautiful. Kind of trusting the unknown as well. There's a lot of trust involved in this remembering process. And like I said at the beginning, I think creating time for yourself is also central. Instead of just, it's really easy to just fill your time with a lot of things. And when you have free time, just use social media or watch a Netflix show and this and that. If that thing is going to inspire you, wonderful, keep doing that. Storytelling is amazing. But if you know, and you know when it's happening, that is just like numbing you because you don't want to think about anything, you're actually pushing yourself further away from who, like the big discovery you can have about your path and your essence. Do you have another tip or?
In my case, because we already talked in some episodes before, we believe in spirituality, so we believe in spirit guides and angels, archangels, you know, or your even ancestors. They are there to help you out. So in my case, when I was really lost, I just asked them, you know, what should I do? what could I be? What's in alignment with who I should become? What's my path? And kind of just trusted that I'll get the answer and just ask them to show me in a way that would be clear to me, because I'm really like, in those difficult moments, we really question ourselves. It's really hard, I think, in the beginning to really trust our intuition. So yeah, I was just asking them. And I remember I had a dream of myself screaming, I am blah, blah, blah. So it was really clear. I was like literally screaming at myself what I should do. So maybe it helps for you too. Maybe you have a dream where you see constantly, you know, the same thing on your way, pops up the same things, you know, maybe it's a sign.
Yeah, put it out there, the question, and it shall be answered in a way or another. Yourself screaming at you, or some more subtle way.
Yes. So I really hope you could get something from this video, from this podcast, and that if you find yourself in a situation that is not really in alignment with who you believe you truly are, or if you think there's something else that is better for you, do not give up. I know it's a bit challenging in the beginning, but try to find your way back to yourself. And I'm sure you're going to be fine. You're going to be rewarded for that.
Yeah. Even if this episode didn't give you the answers, at least gave you some questions that you can ask yourself. And remember, your worth, it doesn't matter external validation. Find that worth within you, and everything shall be fine. And we're so glad that you're here with us, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you very much. And if you enjoyed, please leave us a like, share with your friends, and comment down below. If you're listening on the podcast, please leave us a review. It really does help. And thank you very much. Hope to see you next week. Goodbye.